Muslim terrorists are flooding into the United States via Mexico, and Obama doesn't care. Donald Trump asks, what's the difference between Bill Clinton and Bill Cosby? And a former U.S. attorney thinks Hillary Clinton could face a criminal indictment from the FBI within the next 60 days. This calls for some music. My name is Howard Riell, and this is Riell Truth. You're listening to the American Freedom Network, streaming live around the world at AmericanNewsNet.com and on Facebook and YouTube and Tumblr, and in the book Riell Truth, Stay Angry. And of course, as always, broadcasting out across the Colorado Front Range on KHNC, Johnstown, Colorado, 1360 AM The Lion. Our call-in number is 877-254-7524. My friends, welcome back. Hey, I'm allowed to have some fun, right? Right. Item from SanDiegoReader.com. Among the several dozen Pakistani and Afghan men who've entered the United States illegally coming into San Diego from Tijuana, 2 were found to have ties to terrorist groups, according to a letter sent by U.S. Representative Duncan Hunter to the Department of Homeland Security. Mohammed Azim and Mukhtar Ahmad, both in their 20s, surrendered to U.S. Border Patrol agents in September, according to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. One was listed on the terrorist screening database for, quote, associations with a known or suspected terrorist. The other was a positive match for derogatory information in an alternative database, according to Hunter's letter. Azim and Ahmad are among dozens of men described by Border Patrol agents as military age and carrying U.S. cash, who began entering the United States through a Tijuana-based human smuggling pipeline in September. Unquote. My friends, here's a newsflash you won't like. Muslim military-aged men with U.S. cash have not just begun coming into the United States from Mexico. They've been coming in for many, many years. Many years. What they're carrying in their backpacks, I don't know. What weapons do they have? I don't know. What ties do they have to terrorism? I don't know. What holy book do they read? That I know. They read the Quran, which calls upon people in the name of Allah to wage war against mankind by any means necessary, subdue it, break it, kill it, in the name of Islam. Those are the people that, by the way, not just Obama, but Obama, Bush, Clinton, all the presidents who've been in office, all of them have failed to secure our southern border, and so they all bear a measure of responsibility for whatever ghastly things happen as a result. Going forward, what can we do? Well, we can do a lot. We can transfer the illegals out. We can close the border. We can stop Muslims from coming to the United States, and we can invite the Muslims already here to relocate. Item from the Washington Examiner. A former U.S. attorney thinks Hillary Clinton could face a criminal indictment from the FBI within the next 60 days. Joe DiGenova, Republican U.S. attorney appointed by President Reagan, said Clinton's, quote, biggest problem right now, unquote, is the open FBI investigation into the contents of her private emails. Quote, they've reached a critical mass in their investigation of the secretary and all of her senior staff, DiGenova said Tuesday on the Laura Ingraham radio show. And it's going to come to a head, I would suggest, in the next 60 days, unquote. My friends, I am totally against bringing charges against Hillary Clinton in 60 days. I'm totally against it. I think they should do it today. Related item from thehill.com, conventional wisdom has it that Hillary Clinton will crush Donald Trump next November if they both happen to be their respective parties' nominees. We're told that Trump is too brash, too crude, too inexperienced, too offensive to present a real challenge to a seasoned pro like Clinton. As has been the case repeatedly where Trump is concerned, however, that conventional wisdom may prove not simply wrong, but entirely backward. Clinton has two major weaknesses as a candidate, presuming, of course, that voters can and will overlook her apparent dishonesty. First, she has to build her own winning coalition of voters, being unlikely to reproduce Barack Obama's and entirely unable to resurrect that which her husband put her husband in the White House nearly a quarter century ago. Second, and more importantly, she must overcome her own record of foreign policy failure, which is obviously tied to Barack Obama's record and less obviously to George W. Bush's record as well. In both cases, Donald Trump presents significant problems for her. Unquote. My friends, Donald Trump will kick her sorry ass if and when he runs against her. But why does it have to come to that? Why are there so many millions of Americans who are deaf, dumb, blind, and ignorant enough to actually think for a moment that she could make a good president? She is the least qualified, serious candidate for president in my lifetime. Item from the Associated Press, Dateline, Washington, D.C. Jeb Bush's recent cancellation of advertising plans in Iowa and South Carolina was yet another cost-saving step for a down-in-the-polls presidential campaign that had already thinned its staff. It's not for his flush super PAC. If not for his flush super PAC, the Republican might have been gone from the contest by now. That group, called Right to Rise, has burned through half of its $103 million, which still leaves it with about as much cash as John McCain spent during the entire 2008 GOP nominating contest. In the 2016 race, money isn't buying love from voters. It is, however, buying some candidates more time. Less than a month before voting begins, Republican field is still thick with a dozen presidential hopefuls. Super PACs are one reason why. Unquote. My friends, when you're running for president, it helps to have $103 million. It also helps not to be a zero with no new ideas, who's willing to throw our gates open to illegal people coming from Mexico and other South and Central American countries and do absolutely nothing about it. Jeb Bush is such a candidate. Every time he opens his mouth, you can almost see dust flying out because he's that dry, that boring, that dull, unimaginative, and he is that terrible to contemplate as president. By the way, before we hit the break, here's a picture I saw on Facebook. It says Obama wants background checks. Let's start with his. It's Wednesday and it's Riell Truth. I'll be back. Go nowhere.
We all know that our government is out of control. For the point of people in it. How can we, the people, bring it back to the people's service, not the people's master? In the Freedom Rider say, officials in government must be made accountable for their actions. AccountabilityRevolution.com is the place to go and learn how you can actually make that happen. Become their judges, not their slaves. AccountabilityRevolution.com. Let's keep millions of Republicans are fighting in it. All of it is before you. We salute you and thank you for your sacrifice. Our prayers move with you and your family. This necessary tribute on PW 4212 South College Avenue, Fort Collins. Check out our daily specials or call for delivery. 970-226-1711. 970-226-1711. Great people, great food, great service. Call today. And of His Holiness we have all received, and grace for grace. For the law was given through Moses, but truth came through Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, He has declared Him. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 16. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense,
And we are back. Howard Riell, the show is called Riell Truth. We're into the thick of it. Here's a constitutional attorney named Chris Ann Hall discussing what's going on in Oregon. You've been reading about it as I have, and why it's important for us to follow. Here we go.
I'm Chris Ann Hall. I'm a constitutional attorney, author, educator, and talk show host. Let's talk about Oregon.
Well, my hat off to Chris Ann Hall. By the way, my friends, you can find this video on my Facebook page, Riell Truth Radio. It's an immensely important video. I recommend that you watch it and that you share it. You get to know it, you talk about it, and talk to your politicians about it, wherever you happen to live. Because there's nothing more important, as she says, nothing more important in America than the Constitution. And once it's gone, we're gone, and America's gone. Item from BuzzFeed.com. Donald Trump says it would be very interesting to ask Bill Clinton how he was different from Bill Cosby. Asked on the Howie Carr show on Monday if there's a difference between Clinton and Cosby, Trump said, quote, well, the Cosby thing is a weird deal, and he's got himself some big problems, and you almost have to ask Bill Clinton that question. It would be a very interesting question to someday ask him. Certainly, he has a lot of strong charges against him, and it's pretty bad stuff. And it only got brought up because she said, I have sexist tendencies. I respect women so much, and I'll protect women, and I'll protect them, and I'll protect the whole country, unquote. Criminal charges were filed against the comedian last week for the first time over an alleged 2004 sexual assault. Cosby has been accused of sexual assault by more than 40 women over the years. Item from the Holy New York Times. At a campaign event for Donald J. Trump in Mississippi last weekend, Lynette Hardaway and Rochelle Richardson, two African-American YouTube stars who go by the names Diamond and Silk, rallied the crowd, roaring with a plea, ditch and switch, ditch and switch. The pitch was directed at Democrats and independents in the audience, urging them to become Republicans and vote for Mr. Trump if they really want to show their support. It could be an important strategy for Mr. Trump as the pace of primary season picks up and he looks to turn his raucous campaign events into voters, delegates, and ultimately the Republican nomination. To accomplish that, Mr. Trump will be relying on people who do not tend to vote and trying to persuade some Democrats and independents to change parties so they can vote in states that allow only registered Republicans to participate. Unquote. My friends, if you are not now able to vote for Donald Trump, you need to wrench your brain around. You need to decide what your priorities are. You need to register as a Republican and vote for him in the primary. Item from the Washington Post. Dateline, Malmo, Sweden. When the small crumpled body of 3-year-old Alan Kurdi washed up on the Aegean coast on September 2nd, Europe's humanitarian superpower sprang into action. Sweden's prime minister headlined gala fundraisers, Swedish celebrities starred in telethons, and a country that prides itself on doing the right thing seemed to rally as one to embrace refugees fleeing for their lives. But, it's always a but, right? But after taking in more asylum seekers per capita than any other nation in Europe, Sweden's welcome mat now lies in tatters. Overwhelmed by the human tide of 2015, the center-left government is deploying extraordinary new border controls and slashing benefits in an unmistakable signal to refugees contemplating the long trek to Sweden in the new year. Stay out. We're willing to do more than anyone else, said Swedish Migration Minister Morgan Johansson, but even we have our limits. Unquote. My friends, the Swedes are among the dumbest people in the world. You think I'm not right? Look at Sweden. It's become the rape capital of Europe. The country is in shreds. They're kicking themselves in the ass because they let all these hundreds of thousands of Muslims in and they regret it every single day. So when does America wise up? Item from the Washington Examiner. The number of U.S. newborns named Muhammad has jumped 100-fold since 1964. One way of determining the growth of second and third generation Muslims, according to a leading immigration watchdog. Based on Social Security Administration baby name figures, there were only 29 babies born with the spellings of Muhammad in 1964. That has now surged to 2,931. Unquote. My friend, sometimes some actuarial student will do a chart, and it'll show how a country's fortunes decline as the number of children named Muhammad increases. It's no coincidence, and it's no accident, and it's an ugly truth, and it's a truth that tastes bad in our mouth, but the truth it is. More Muslims in the country, the more violence, the more destruction, the more jihad. We see what's happened to Sweden. Sweden is dead. Too late to turn back. Same thing happening all over Europe. It's time to stand tall and say it's not going to happen in America. We'll be right back.
Howdy, folks. Have you ever thought about having your own backyard chickens? Now you have a source for certified organic, no GMO, no soy chicken meat. HappyHens.biz can even deliver, or you can pick up. Call me, Tim, at 303-829-5948, or go to HappyHens.biz for pricing and ingredients. At HappyHens.biz, we love HappyHens.biz. Or call us at 303-829-5948. Rehabilitation and Nursing Center of the Rockies reminds everyone the chance of involvement in an auto accident rises dramatically with the consumption of alcohol or use of drugs. Please think before you drive. Don't let drugs or alcohol ruin your life or take the lives of others. You are responsible for your own safety as well as the safety of those around you. This message from Rehabilitation and Nursing Center of the Rockies. For information on their services, call 970-484-7981. Great Plains Power has been providing reliable electrical power systems in the Rocky Mountain area since 1992. Our systems rely on the sun to help make you self-reliant for your power needs. Solar energy can be steel to fit any situation, from complete power independence to backup power for the short term. Our expertise focuses on standalone power, but we have extensive experience with utility interactive systems as well. Custom tailored capabilities as modest emergency lighting all the way to commercial scale power. Great Plains Power is a full service company. We service everything we sell. We provide and design turnkey packages, custom design system, and parts for do-it-yourself. With more than 20 years of specialized experience at your disposal, let us know what your power concerns or goals are. Reach us by phone or the internet. Call 303-239-9963. That's 303-239-9963. Or go to GreatPlainsSolar.com. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 10 through 13. Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
All right, folks, welcome back to Riell Truth. Howard Riell behind the microphone, and I am queuing up a video you will find on usapoliticstoday.com. Just yesterday, Judge Jeanine Pirro unleashed a brutal tirade against Barack Obama, which of course is music to our ears. Let's see if I can do the impossible and actually cue it up. Let's see. What can I make of this here? You know how I am with technology. Here we go. So, my friends, if Barack Obama is responsible for the deaths of innocent people, and he is, doesn't that also mean that the people who voted for him are also responsible for the deaths of innocent human beings? Yeah, it does. Item from shoeback.com. During a recent radio interview with Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council, outgoing Representative Michelle Bachmann, Republican Minnesota, asserted that President Barack Obama has embraced the agenda of Islamic Jihad, which includes the destruction of Israel and the conversion of the United States into an Islamic caliphate. While acknowledging that the charge sounds outrageous, Bachmann insisted that this is what's happening. The admission by Bachmann that what she was saying was so unbelievable but true likely contributes significantly to the refusal of so many Americans to believe it. Here's her quote. While the president continues to say that this is not about the religion of Islam, I beg to differ. This has everything to do with the tenets of Islam. It is a new state that's being put together for the purpose of destroying Israel and to turn the United States into an Islamic caliphate. I've been very surprised to see the President of the United States at every turn embrace and lift up the agenda of Islamic Jihad. Unquote. Well, Michelle Bachmann is right, but I don't know why she's surprised. People in the know have seen this coming for years already. It shouldn't surprise anybody. And if there's anyone out there who attributes this simply to Obama's stupidity, well, he is stupid ultimately, but everything he's done with intent. Item from MarketWatch.com. Americans are starting 2016 with more job security, but most are still theoretically only one paycheck away from the street. Approximately 63% of Americans have no emergency savings for things such as a $1,000 emergency room visit or a $500 car repair, according to a survey released Wednesday of 1,000 adults by personal finance website Bankrate.com. That's up slightly from 62% last year. Faced with an emergency, they say they would raise the money by reducing spending elsewhere, 23%, borrowing from family and or friends, 15%, or using credit cards to bridge the gap, 15% also. This lack of emergency savings could be a problem for millions of Americans. More than 4 in 10 Americans either experienced a major unexpected expense over the past 12 months or had an immediate family member who had an unexpected expense. Bankrate found. Without emergency savings, you may not have money to cover needed home repairs, says Signe Marie McKernan, senior fellow and economist at the Urban Institute, a nonprofit organization that focuses on social and economic policy. Similarly, without emergency savings, people could raid their retirement accounts. Unquote. My dear, how many people in America still have retirement accounts? Item from the Daily Beast. The murder of a 15-year-old teenager thrown to his death by ISIS for being gay not only reveals yet again the terror group's murderous homophobia, but also the hypocrisy that exists alongside it. A senior commander of the so-called Islamic State, named in reports as Abu Zaid al-Jazrawi, was having some kind of relationship with this as yet nameless 15-year-old, but the more senior man was not killed. Instead, he was reportedly flogged and forced to leave Syria and join the fighting fronts in northwestern Iraq. The boy killed in Deir ez-Zor, Syria's 7th largest city, is not the first to be murdered in such a manner. The images of men accused and suspected of being gay being thrown to their deaths from tall buildings has become brutally familiar. Unquote. So, to all my listeners out there who are gay rights activists, get moving, get busy, go to the Islamic countries, go to the Middle East, to the Arab countries, and open your mouth and start screaming at them to stop being homophobic. If you survive, and if you're not thrown off of a building, call into the show. I'll put you on the air, and you can tell us how gratified you feel. We'll be back. All right, guys, all done. Please share the video after you've watched it. Hasta luego.